Welcome to Green Hills Shadow, Chapter 15, Through the Chaotic Night. Maddie and Wade stood and watched their exchange from the forest's edge. They couldn't hear exactly what was being said, but they could see Shadow edging himself closer to the water unintentionally to get away from Tom. They had to respect what Tom gestured for them to do, stay put. Maddie still held Tails' hand, who was holding hers tightly, and his head was against her leg. Knuckles eventually found them after Sonic finding him, all waiting at the edge line to let Tom handle it. Because if they go out there and happen to startle him, he'll bolt and they aren't sure if they'll catch him next time, even with being hit by Wade's car. Sure, Sonic is there, but when you have a panic-stricken hedgehog, it could put him in danger instead.
I didn't mean to,
Wade wiped his eye and Maddie put her free arm around him. The human could be a huge teddy bear at times, and she felt pity and sorrow for him. He was beating himself up over what happened quite badly.
We know Wade. Shadow will know that too. He was just in a hurry.
Wade swallowed and put a hand on his chest to calm his painful heart.
What happened? What made him just not look where he was going? I wasn't even aware he could run like that.
He muttered, obviously quite lost, and he took notice of Sonic's ears were down.
We opened some stuff about his past. He reacted badly. It was all one big misunderstanding and unintentional harm.
Maddie replied and squeezed Tails' hand gently as she could, the fox rubbing his eye with his free hand. They couldn't really hear what was being said. They did hear Shadow raise his voice a little bit, obviously having his walls up.
Neither did I. He looked as fast as Sonic.
Sonic swallowed hard.
We've raced. I forgot to tell you all, I was so excited I had someone to rival me that
Knuckles picked up on the emotion.
Sonic?
I wished he was stung by a wasp nest.
You did not wish for.
That's not the point. What if what I said willed it? He went into Wade's car full force.
He cried out and Wade frowned.
Dad was right. I would end up coming to regret it.
Knuckles pulled Sonic into himself and hugged him tightly.
No, stop. It was a string of misfortunate circumstances, brother. The universe knew you did not mean what you said.
Sonic's back was pressed up against the echidna, and he clawed at the echidna's strong arms to get away.
You don't know that.
You said stung by. You certainly did not say to get struck by a vehicle.
He pointed out, trying to assure him. Sonic sniffed pitifully.
Are you hitting me with a technicality like he does?
Knuckles shook his head and pressed his own forehead against the top of Sonic's head.
I'm pointing out the logic.
Wade wanted clarification and Maddie whispered some stuff, so she didn't upset Tails into the blame game again. Wade felt exhausted, and that made it even worse. If he felt this bad, how did they feel when they've lived with Shadow for weeks now?
I could just go sleep for a week.
He muttered and rubbed his face tiredly. He never pictured his night becoming as chaotic as this. He still can't believe his car went into the Black Sapient. He hurt a kid and it wasn't doing good on his heart. He felt a heart attack coming on. He looked up to see Tom edging his way closer to the black hedgehog. He sighed, taking a glance at Tails.
Tails.
He helped put his arms and the kit gladly accepted, jumping into them, and Wade hugged him tightly, giving him a bear hug.
It's alright. It'll be alright.
He bounced the kit and rubbed his back. Maddie had a small smile on her face at the affection Wade was giving to the fox. Uncle Wade to the rescue, and she looked out at her husband and the situation. They heard Tom raise his voice. They could vaguely make out him saying something about Gerald. But with how the other two were talking, Knuckles trying to calm down Sonic, they couldn't quite make out much. They don't know how long they stood there, all lost and waiting for the green light from Tom to give that it was okay to head on over. It did look like Shadow was trying to put his walls back up, but with the mountain that was Tom Wachowski, it was impossible for him to do so. Wade eventually sat Tails back down as Sonic and Knuckles wanted to give him a surety too, promising him in any way they could without being overbearing. But they saw Tom hug into the black hedgehog and Shadow returned it, and the adults sighed with relief. That meant Shadow was calmer again. Hopefully.
Looks like my husband's charm worked again.
She muttered. She had her vet kit back at the car, so she was relying on Tom carrying the black hedgehog so they could take him to the clinic. And he likely will be kicking and screaming, but he needs x-rays. They just need to talk him through it. Wade let out a tired chuckle.
He certainly has that, don't he? Could befriend even a rattlesnake with his lame jokes.
She slapped him on the shoulder half-heartedly but agreeing. Tom always found a special way to get to a person, even with his bad jokes at times.
You aren't wrong there. I just hope Shadow lets me take an x-ray. I brought my kit in case I needed to stitch some areas, though I left it in the truck in a hurry.
No sooner than Wade was about to open his mouth, all of them heard a gut-wrenching and frantic scream from Tom. He screamed out Maddie's name, scaring the ever-daylights out of them all, and Maddie's heart was in her throat. She rushed on ahead, as did Wade. The other three sapients' furs bristled out from the way that scream sounded and followed not long after. There was urgency in his tone. Did Shadow black out? He was holding the sapient like a rag doll in a panic. That's when the three Mobians smelt it. Iron meant one thing: blood. It physically made Sonic and Knuckles stop suddenly. It wasn't like it was little blood. There was a lot in the air around their father, and it was overpowering, heavy. It made the older two gag in reflex. Tom cried out her name again.
He's hurt.
In Tom's arms that they could see, with Wade and Maddie blocking some of the view, Shadow was limp against their father. Sonic nearly buckled to the ground.
No.
He sharply gasped.
Shadow, stay awake.
Their father was becoming hysterical, and Wade shouted in alarm, very much concerning the two older ones. Knuckles had sped ahead with great speed and grabbed Tails, who struggled under his brother's grip, to prevent him getting any closer. He kept the kid away. When Maddie moved, the older two saw it briefly and both equally felt physically sick. Right in Shadow's back was a blooded piece of a tree that somehow lodged itself in him. Sonic nearly fainted right there and then at the sight, taking it in. Shadow's face was pressed against their father's chest, who held him tightly, and his normally calm father. His cop father looked ready to fall apart into tears. He looked hysterical, distraught, and he wasn't hiding it. He's never seen him so scared, even up against Robotnik. Sure, he was terrified in the moment, but not like this. He's only seen something similar was when the Blue Sapient himself was injured during the second fight, when Eggman was determined to crush with him with his robotic foot. But he was too busy trying not to let him have the emerald to take notice fully.
Don't do this. Shadow, bud, you gotta try.
He lifted Shadow's head best he could with his hand. His eyes were heavily drooped and unfocused, drifting between consciousness. Knuckles lifted the fox, who started yelling at his older brother, and wondered what had happened. He wasn't allowing the kit to see this and covered his eyes, forcing him not to look at the ebony sapient. Sonic cried out, taking in Shadow's bloodied self. His arm was bloody, his shoes were seeped in it. The back of his leg was also the same, trailing off him, dripping like raindrops. His gloves were stained in it too. It was like someone dipped him in paint. Shadow was breathing, but it was slow. Chaos, how was he even still alive? Tom fumbled about. He began to lift off his sweater as he swapped the sapient in his arms. The shirt underneath him was being stained by Shadow's arm. He shakily held it out for Maddie and Wade to take, if anything to help cushion the dripping blood, and wrap it around the area. Maddie took that and wrapped it around Peace and Shadow's stomach as carefully as she could. As she did so, she could feel the other end wanting to push through his skin on the other side, and she winced in sympathy. Wade ripped off his sleeves to wrap around the hedgehog's maimed arm, anything to lessen the bleeding to an extent.
I gotta take him to the clinic. Tom?
Lead the way. I got him.
He choked out, lifting the injured and bloodied hedgehog back up as gently as he could. His arms were underneath the black sapient's legs, and Tom's hands were pressed against his upper back, keeping him pinned to his chest as Shadow's head was laying underneath his chin and shoulder. Wade gestured for Knuckles to take Tails into his car instead, which he gladly accepted, much to the fox's displeasure. They don't care how mature he is, he's not seeing the state of the black sapient. Not with all that blood and a tree piece sticking out of him.
Knuckles, what's...
Tails tried to ask, but Knuckles kept his hand over, moving it to the kit's head, and forced his face against the red sapient's shoulder, to prevent him from seeing such a sight, and held him tight. He's not letting him see, not at his age. Knuckles had when he was younger. He still suffers nightmares at times. He will not allow the kit to go through the same experience.
No ve Tails.
He said in Echidna.
Sonic.
I'm staying with Shadow.
He sounded monotone and gave Knuckles a withering look.
You stay with Tails.
Brother.
Let me do this.
The echidna paused and pursed his lip. He wanted to make sure Shadow had someone, and with him being caught up with Tails left Sonic the only one to do the job. So he grunted in acknowledgement. Wade started to usher the echidna. Everyone began to run with Maddie and Wade using flashlights so they could see where they were going. Sonic jogged beside Tom. His eyes kept glancing at the unresponsive hedgehog, but his ears kept straining to listen, to hear and make sure he was still breathing. His father's sweater was now being coated with red, its pale blue color becoming a dark red. How did he manage to get something like that inside him?
Shadow, Bud, please. Tell me more about Maria. You need to stay awake.
But Shadow didn't respond. He lacked the strength to do so if he was even awake. Sonic couldn't see from this angle, but at least he was breathing. He'll take that. It felt like a long several minutes of jogging and running, the sound and huffing of his parents and Wade. It was tense and urgent. Sonic was the only one that didn't seem out of breath, but it may be because he's a speedy hedgehog. His father kept trying, kept pushing for Shadow to say something, anything, even bringing up Scarborough Fair. But he still did not respond or react, and it was killing them. By the time they reached their vehicles, the wrapped areas were stained with the color red, and it wasn't improving. Wade shouted he would follow Tom and Maddie, and he opened the door, ushering Knuckles to take Tails in the back and strap themselves in. Maddie opened the back of the truck and climbed in, holding her hands out to take Shadow from Tom. They laid his head upon her knees, and on his side, off the area that the tree piece was threatening to go right through. Even if it meant putting him on his right mangled arm, they had to keep him off his left side. Sonic climbed in on the other side where his legs would be resting and held them firmly in place as he hurriedly put his seatbelt on. Tom shut the door with urgency and ran to the front, slamming the door, and got the engine to start. And off they went with his lights going off again. Maddie stroked the black hedgehog's quills and swallowed, feeling the blood seep from his arm onto the edges of her joggers, and she couldn't hold back the tears. The pain of seeing the way Shadow was. It reminded her of when he first came, only he was bleeding way worse now.
Oh, baby, I'm so sorry.
She whispered. Shadow's eyes were still open, but only by a little, and they were completely foggy, unfocused. None of them knew if he was awake or not. He wasn't responding to them in any shape or form, not even an ear twitch. She kissed his head as gently as she could, her other hand squeezing his free hand, letting him know he had people there. People were going to help him somehow. Sonic's ears were still back, and he blinked back his own tears just from the sight. It felt like this was his fault, for wishing he would go into a wasp's nest, but instead he somehow had a piece of tree stuck in him. He swallowed the rising bile and groaned, rubbing his throat, keeping his hand on Shadow's bottom legs as Tom drove with urgency to the clinic, Wade in tow in the back. This was bound to get people's attention in town, with the lights going off. Unless Tom and Wade had a plan to turn them off when they got there. It was all so chaotic. Sonic took a deep breath and reached over, touching Shadow's arm very gently.
Shadow? I'm sorry. When you get better, I'll show you more around Green Hills. Maybe even show you the donut shop, huh?
Maddie gave her boy a small smile, and she felt Shadow's pulse. It was still there, but it was weak. Tom kept driving, but she saw his eyes kept checking the back on the trio. His eyes were nervous, distraught, afraid. Tom was usually so good at handling situations, but not this time. He couldn't hide it, and she knows if this happened to be any of their other boys, he'd react the same way. No one can be strong all the time after all.
Tell me about, Maria, Shadow.
Sonic encouraged him in hopes to bring life back to him, but alas, Shadow remained the way he was. Sonic swallowed hard and tried again.
Shadow, you gotta tell me about Maria,
he urged. He was met with silence, and Sonic's heart threatened to come out of his chest. He shakily put his hand under the hedgehog's nose, worried he wouldn't find him breathing, but he did. It was shallow, sure, but he still was there. His chest was rising up and down slowly, and that was enough to let him know his heart was fighting for the black sapient. So the blue hedgehog's hand shakily went to Shadow's hand, where his mom held. Sonic sobbed, unable to be strong, unable to hold it back.
Oh, Blueberry,
Maddie muttered, reaching out with the hand that held Shadow's to hug him the best way she could in their positions. Sonic held onto her hand but leaned into the bloodied form of Shadow, hugging him gently as best as he could, and wailed loudly against him. It broke their hearts having to listen to this. that their kid was crying his heart out. Tom kept driving, turning the siren's lights off when they got into town, so he didn't alert other police officers or anyone else at this time of night. Shadow didn't need questions nor people hounding to find out about him, not right now. Wade wasn't far behind him either that he could make out.
You'll like the Pokemon game Shadow.
Sonic whispered, anything just to let Shadow know, make him fight for another day.
You'll like the Goofy movie Tails had planned with you. Knucks finally finished his training regime to do with you.
He was desperate for anything.
We have so much plans to do with you.
Hey, you can even try my birthday cake in June. Have you ever tried birthday cake? You'll like it, but you gotta fight for us, please.
No response.
Green Hills has so much to offer you still.
He choked.
Shadow, please. I'm sorry
But as if his persistence was enough, Sonic felt Shadow's fingers curl around his hand ever so slightly and his eyes widened and he pulled his head back in shock, staring at the still clouded look in his eyes. But he noticed Shadow was looking towards at him. He's semi-conscious by the looks of it, but not having the strength to talk.
Shadow?
He muttered, glancing at the black sapient's hand, and he didn't imagine it. His fingers twitched, curling a little more, but it was still quite weak, but enough to make the blue hedgehog smile.
Yeah, Shadow, it's me. Mom and Dad are here too.
He muttered tiredly but loud enough for him to hear.
Was it the cake? I'm sure it was the cake.
He tried joking. Maddie saw what made him ecstatic. Two of Shadow's fingers weakly curled against the blue hedgehog's hand, and she choked back a sob. Tears also running down her face. He was trying. Shadow was trying to fight.
We're almost there. Maddie, get your keys out at the ready.
She nodded and stroked Shadow's quills.
We need to do it this way, Shadow. I'm sorry, but you need help.
They eventually pulled up to the clinic, with Wade and Tom parking at the back of it so they don't draw too much attention. Wade got out and so did Tom, both rushing to the back door of the truck. Tom pulled the door open, gently being given Shadow, who didn't respond much, being ever mindful of the peace lodged inside him still. He had the black sapient's arms around his shoulders for a better grip on his lower body. Maddie got out as soon as Tom managed to hold him and rushed to the back door of the clinic that she luckily had keys brought along for x-rays. Sonic jumped out, closing the doors for his parents as Knuckles kept the kit with him, not wanting him to see the state Shadow was actually in.
Tom, what do you need me to do?
Wade hurriedly jogged with him towards the door. Maddie finally managing to unlock the door and open it, and she made her way to the alarm to turn it off so it wouldn't alert anyone. Tom didn't know how to respond. He felt Shadow's breathing against his shoulder and neck. He swallowed. Maddie managed to get the alarms off and put the lights on. It'll get attention, but they don't care. He needs medical help immediately.
Tom,
She waved him to one of the rooms.
take him back there. I'm gonna need a x-ray.
He numbly nodded and did what she asked, with Wade going with him, ready to be instructed by Maddie.
Okay, lay him down. Yes, like that. Move his good arm above his head so I can x-ray his hip, leg, back, and arm. I'll tell you when to move him on the parts I need, but be gentle.
Sonic sat out in the waiting room with Knuckles bringing Tails with him, who looked alarmed to see blood on the hedgehog.
I'm fine, Tails. Just stains from Shadow.
How bad is he hurt?
Tails hesitantly asked, earning a grimace from both his brothers. His ears drooped immediately.
Did I?
Nava, it is no fault of yours. What happened was misfortunate timing and coincidences. Never blame yourself. I will not hear it.
Tails' lip quivered and Sonic hugged him tightly in assurance.
Nux is right. It was just unfortunate.
What's gonna happen now?
Knuckles sat down on the chair and rolled his neck tiredly and sighed.
We play the waiting game once more. And pray that Shadow fights to stay with us longer.
They should have never brought the young Kit, but they knew he wouldn't have stayed put, and no one actually thought Shadow was as hurt as he was. Mobians were resilient. If Knuckles could get back up from a car hitting him, they all thought Shadow could too. He did, of course, but the humans or the older two could never imagine he had a piece of tree inside him. While the sapients were outside in the waiting room, Maddie managed to get the desired x-rays, and she compared them on her computer screen and her eyes boggled. He had a fracture on his hip and leg, but it wasn't as bad as she thought it could have been, just a crack there and here, nothing that was concerning. It looked like some bones had been fractured repeatedly, though at one stage of his life, with some having evidence, She bit her lip at the implication again. What did Gun do? Did his unique power aid him in healing the fractures? So that means these wouldn't be any different? God, it's all a guessing game to her right now. His arm was alright from the damage he had done to it somehow. It looked like puncture wounds, like he had stabbed it repeatedly. But he didn't do any non-reversible damage. So he was quite lucky in that regard. The same cannot be said for the tree piece. But it did not pierce any vital organs nor damage any bones, but from the angle? It certainly looked like it had, but oddly enough, his organs were perfect. How? But it still almost made it right through to the other side of him from the impact of the force. The fact he was still breathing was a miracle. This was strange to her. She compared the x-rays and it was like nothing was making sense in the slightest. Some of his organs should have been damaged, some should have been pierced, yet nothing. Did his special blood do this? That shouldn't be possible, but looking at it, Shadow was making it look like it was. She won't know till he's better and properly awake. Knuckles did say his healing was far superior than what was known to be a thing for Mobians. He's going to need surgery for this part. She ordered Tom and Wade to get her injections and fluids. And she might need to get her children to donate some blood if they prove to be a match. She just hopes Shadow will understand what she's about to do to him. She called in Knuckles for some assistance.
I need to take a sample of your blood and Sonic's to compare. 'Cause I'm gonna need a donation if you match Knuckles.
She had done Sonic's blood ages ago and found it was like the O-positive blood type, which was the common for humans, but there was a slight difference between human and Mobian blood, only by so much. But safer to put blood back into the Black Sapient, as both were Mobians. Luckily she had a bag of his in case of emergencies like now. She'll have to rebuild Sonic's back up. If Knuckles did not match, then it just meant she can save a bag for any future messes should the Echidna do so. These superpowered children. It's never written in the parenting books and what to look out for. The Echidna nodded.
Yes, Mother, I shall be the first. Then I will go wait with Tails when Sonic gets his turn. What about our youngest?
The Red Sapient looked at Shadow on the table and swallowed. He was on his side with Tom and Wade setting up.
What I need, he's too young for. Plus, after tonight, I don't want to traumatize him any further. Thank you, baby.
She rushed over as the Echidna left to tell Sonic about the drawing of blood, and she held out his non-damaged arm and swallowed. She knows he would never allow this because of before, but this needs to happen to save his life. She injected a needle after finding a good vein so fluids can be given to him later. He didn't respond luckily, even with eyes still semi-open. They were not at all focused, still drifting between the land of consciousness and not. Wade went through the trays to find sedatives and other stuff for the pain. Maddie was grateful she didn't have to ask for them.
You gonna remove it in surgery?
Tom asked her, wanting to know her plan. She numbly nodded.
But I need both of you to help me. I don't have anyone else. Knuckles can be on standby. I just need extra hands, and I can tell you lot what to do.
She ordered as both of the humans grimaced but agreed. She did take blood off Knuckles and then Sonic to see who would be the ideal candidate for a blood donation. She very much wishes she was a Mobian doctor at this point. Tonight was just chaotic. She doesn't remember anything past the last 10 minutes, then that goes out the window too. She carefully injected a sedative to the unresponsive hedgehog. Better to be safe than sorry. She got them all to clean up and wear scrubs. Knuckles came back from informing the other two about what was about to be done. She had Sonic's bag at the ready as well. She just had to be very careful with the tree piece. She put an oxygen mask over the Black Sapient, fully intending to get this thing out of him. But as soon as she felt about it, and gave it a slight pull back in order to feel how much girth it had inside of Shadow, he twisted his body forward from the discomfort, letting out a painful groan, and she was startled, as were the other three. That shouldn't be possible. She sedated him. Knuckles frowned and quickly made his way over to the Black Sapient.
Shadow?
He groaned, alerting the fact the sedation did not work. He looked in alarm, and so did Maddie. She asked for another dose to sedate him with. She leaned over and touched him gently.
Shadow? I'm sorry, baby, but I need to sedate you again so you don't feel this.
Work.
He slurred out, his breathing fogging the mask. Not fully there, but not fully out either. Maddie frowned.
Won't work? Is that what you're saying?
How would Shadow know that? Why do they need sedation again? Shadow's mind was foggy blank. Tom grimaced and held his hand to his mouth and bit hard. Is it his blood? Because he was made by a mad scientist, he needs stronger stuff? Like how much are we talking here? Oh yeah, he still needs to tell Wade and Maddie about that, doesn't he? He also still needs to do his freak about it too. Maybe when Shadow's not bleeding.
Can you remember how strong it was then? Shadow, I can't get this without putting you under.
She really did not want to pull it anymore while he was awake. She can't do that. But Shadow went silent again. And she bit her lip. She didn't know what to do. Then she nearly got a heart attack cause Shadow actually tried getting up. His hand haphazardly on the table, using his elbow, and he grunted. Knuckles quickly rushed to force him back down, as did Tom and Wade. She's utterly horrified.
Shadow, you must not.
Knuckles held him firmly as Tom tried to lay his head back down. His eyes were still so dazed. Does he even realize what's going on? His mask fogged up from his ragged, painful breaths, and it was killing Tom.
Shadow, please.
Tom sounded so distraught. He leaned down, putting his head on Shadow's, and whispered as gently and calmly as he could.
It's alright, son. We're here.
Wade looked at the sheriff's admission but stood close nearby in case he was needed. The fact that Shadow needs stronger sedation, especially made one, did not make sense. Shadow let out a moan of pain from the movement, trying to curl up, but he was stopped by the other two. Knuckles was seeing this as a good thing. Pain meant you were alive. Feeling pain was good. It was sad to see, but it meant he was alive.
I know it hurts.
He looked to Maddie, who just looked way out of her element. The fact the sedation didn't work has shook her completely.
I can't do it while he's awake, Tom.
What about numbing him? We could try numb him by drugging him up as much as we can. Maddie, we're running out of options here.
She paused, trying to take it in, if they'd have enough for a conscious sedation. She wasn't a doctor in that regard. She usually had to keep her animals under, and Mobians were still new to her skill set, even if they were close to animals. They are still vastly different in many cases.
We need a mixture of sedations and anesthetics that'll block the pain signals then.
She could still make this work. She only hopes Shadow doesn't surprise her here either by saying won't work. Shadow's never gonna forgive her with anesthetics she was about to inject him with. She took a deep breath.
Let's see what we have then.
But the black hedgehog wasn't done. He tried again as if he was trying to find the issue. And the worst part of it, he did not look like he was awake, like he was doing it subconsciously.
Don't hold me down.
His head was against Tom's head and his hand, who tried his very best to comfort the ebony hedgehog. His mask foggy, every breath and every word he said. Tom swallowed the lump in his throat, hearing his distress. Even Knuckles looked affected. Does he even realize? But the echidna felt something pass into his body, a tug. So he will ask for help one more time. He shouldn't, the emerald has done enough. But his mother needs the extra help here.
Please, let him sleep through this. I require your aid once more. My parents need this. Protect him from himself.
He felt the warmth. The Master Emerald felt like it tried to parent sometimes to the Red Sapient. Or maybe it was just being protective over the new guardians, and home it grew to new. The echidna noticed the hedgehog's eyes close fully this time, completely unconscious. And he let out a sigh of relief. And so did Tom. He kept his forehead against Shadow still, his hand rubbing the sapient's cheek in assurance, maybe even for himself too.
Mother, wait.
He called out, gaining her attention.
We have gotten some aid.
Sonic and Tails waited outside the waiting room. Knuckles had informed them about the plan with the black sapient. He was there on standby as she needed extra hands for this. Tails was hugging into his brother's side while Sonic thumbed through his phone absent-mindedly, watching things on YouTube. Children. Tails' ears went up and he looked around, trying to understand what he heard. Sounded familiar though.
Tails?
I'm fine.
He muttered tiredly, feeling done with today. Tonight even, and rested his head back on his big brother's shoulder. He felt warmth. But he also felt like something was sending its intent to him and possibly Sonic. Is it the connection to the emerald? Rest. Yeah, this might be the Master Emerald. It may have felt the need to comfort them, considering what transpired. Its sentience still befuddled the fox at times. He just wished he knew how bad Shadow was hurt. With the smell of blood in the air back at the lake.
You're overthinking.
Sonic said, making him come out of his thoughts.
I can hear the gears turn in your head.
Eyes still on the screen. Tails huffed. One of his tails crossed over the fox's leg like a blanket.
I think the Emerald's trying to parent us again.
Sonic snorted.
Yeah, well, Dad and Mom could use the break. In fact, after this, I'm staying in my bed until my birthday cause wow. This month has been a roller coaster. Who needs them? We've been on one.
Tails let out a tired giggle at his brother's comparison. He isn't wrong there. And it isn't really Shadow's fault. He sat up, gaining Sonic attention.
Could you go get Luna for Shadow? I think she'd help him.
Sonic smiled with affection at his brother's logic. He luckily took his spare key.
BRB.
He zipped off out the back door, letting the fox groan at his wording. Sonic's a typical teen through and through. It didn't really take him long to come back either, Luna in one arm and the other the Nintendo Switch for Tails to keep his mind busy, which he lit up at. He gladly took the Switch so his mind wasn't coming up with several ways of how bad Shadow was hurt. So may as well make his brain work at his farming empire, and rule the game unopposed in the money-making ways. It still wouldn't leave his mind, how worried he was, but he needs something to pass the time and not go stir crazy. Hopefully the Switch holds enough charge. The hour or two ticked by. Well, Sonic thinks so, he really isn't keeping track of it. Sonic zipped back to the house back and forth to get things like a pillow for the fox, something to drink for everyone, so he filled a backpack and a charger for his phone. Maybe for the Switch too. Yeah, having super speed was really handy here. Eventually his dad came out with Wade, looking completely exhausted. Both Tails and Sonic looked up.
Your mom says you can go see him. We'll be bringing him home with some equipment. He can't stay here.
Tom muttered, gesturing for them to go see the hedgehog. Tails gladly did first, but Sonic took in their father. He was like this that first night they all stayed at his grandparents' after the Robotnik fight. He looked so distraught. He didn't tell his parents, but he heard him and Maddie weep to each other when they sat outside, when the other sapients went to sleep, not thinking anyone was nearby. And he knew his dad was close again. So Sonic hesitated but eventually followed Tails, leaving both of them in the room. Wade rubbed his face tiredly, not believing what had transpired. Just felt the other day he saw Shadow and things were fine. He assumed everything was going well. While Wade had his own thoughts, Tom had pulled out his phone and looked at a picture he had taken of Shadow with the 3 other boys. His lip quivered and it killed him. Wade then heard Tom make a choking sound and it startled the deputy, turning to his best friend.
If he didn't have his special powers or blood?
Tom.
If we hadn't found him.
But you did.
We could have lost him.
His friend burst into tears from the stress and worry that he was under. The dam finally burst with Tom. He just waited for his boys to go see Shadow before he did so. Wade swallowed. Tom was usually the happy-go-lucky one, the one who stood strong for people. Now he needed someone to do it for him. He pulled his best friend into a hug and let him sob his heartache. Hearing his best friend like this just killed the deputy's heart. It was quite clear how close he had gotten to the Black Sapient. He only cried like this when Sonic went to sleep that one night after Robotnik's defeat, the day he thought he had killed them. The day the giant robot attacked and almost killed not only Sonic but Maddie too, even himself, but he didn't factor that part in. His friend was strong, but no one could be like that all the time. So Wade just stood there and listened to the man weep.
I almost lost Maddie and Sonic once.
I know.
Now I almost lost...
Tom choked out and held on to his best friend.
He was in my arms, Wade.
But he's still here, Tom.
He rubbed his back. While they both were in the reception, Sonic and Tails finally got to see Shadow. He was lying on his side and sporting new bandages, needles in his arms with a drip. He looked pale and had dark circles under his eyes, dirt and leaves still stuck to his quills. They tried to clean up the blood around his face and other areas best they could. His gloves were missing, maybe because they were stained with blood, but the rings were still on him. He looked completely like he went through a battle. Maddie looked tired. She checked the fluid bag that was dripping into him. She gave them a small smile. Tails quickly sat Luna into the space of his arms.
Luna will help.
It melted her heart, so she leaned down and hugged her youngest, who returned it with great need. Knuckles had gotten rid of the tree trunk by putting it in a plastic bag. He stated he's going to show this to the Black Hedgehog to show he survived a glorious battle wound and no amount of talking him out of it was going to help. It'll be a memento.
Sonic? Knuckles? I'm gonna need some of your blood.
She asked the blue hedgehog, who nodded, as did the echidna.
Thank you, Blueberry Cranberry. Once we get enough, we'll head home and rest there.
Shadow's blood seemed to be. Well, she doesn't know. Is it type O negative of the Mobian kind? Sonic can give blood, but so can Knuckles. Yet both of her boys aren't the same blood types. Is it his special abilities again? Regardless, she may as well do Sonic first since he's the O-type match. The echidna she's having drawn just as an in case, and it would be beneficial to either Mobian should this happen to them. She needs to start taking donations and storing for emergencies. What she doesn't realize is that Shadow's compatibility is something she could never dream of, courtesy of Professor Gerald. Unfortunately, the one who could tell her is currently out cold. Sonic did not like needles. He usually fainted at the sight of one going near him, but he looked away and held onto the table very hard while she took the donation of blood like a champ, and she kissed his head in thank you. She planned to make it up to him later. She did the same with Knuckles, who did not flinch or have the same issue compared to her middle child, but for now it was time to head home. They can't let Shadow just stay here with people coming to work. Too many questions and she can't answer them. She was going to take the equipment with them and take the rest of the week off work again. This chaotic night has taken its toll on everyone. After getting the bags prepared, she called out for Tom and Wade to help her take Shadow back to the truck. Tom came in. His eyes were red, indicating to her, and their older two, he had likely wept while he and Wade were alone in the room. He ruffled Tails' fringe and gave both Sonic and Knuckles a hug, whispering encouraging words for enduring and helping the way they did. Wade still looked upset when he saw Shadow, the pain he unintentionally inflicted written on his face. Tom went over to the black sapient and leaning down to give him a hug as well. It obviously has affected the man greatly. He then got Wade to take the pole while he lifted Shadow with the greatest care. Knuckles was by his side instantly, just as assurance if their father required it. But Maddie called him over to help her. While Tom and Wade helped take Shadow out to the car with Sonic grabbing what they needed with Tails and pursued, she and Echidna cleaned the room up as best as they could so it wouldn't raise suspicion for the other workers who'll come in later in the morning. She would inform them about what she did one day, but for his sake, not right now. She trusted her people, but it's Shadow's trust they have to be mindful of. His trust is delicate, and she can only hope that they'll be understanding when they eventually find out. She quickly locked the place up after doing everything that needed to be done, and put the alarm back on and made her way to the truck. Everyone got a strong case of déjà vu when they pulled their mattresses down the stairs when they got home. Only difference is Shadow had his own now, where he was currently residing in with the dragon plush Tails lended to help with recovery. The coffee table mess had been cleaned, so there was extra room to have everyone's mattresses out. Wade decided he would sleep over there as well, so he would take the couch. Anything to give himself a peace of mind when Shadow woke up. He still felt rotten he hurt the kid. Shadow's equipment was above his head, the pole that held the drip for fluids to go in, and the other had Sonic's blood which went into his other arm. He was out cold still at the very least, and a pain reliever was at the ready to be pumped into him. Knuckles was on his mattress next to the black sapient, their backs facing with others since Shadow couldn't be on his back at the current time, with Tails in the middle of Knuckles and Sonic on the right of the fox. They were out cold. The box that held the emerald stayed where it was. Tom was in the kitchen looking like he had greeted death several times over. He was drinking his coffee very lethargic-like. Wade came in after making sure Ozzy had been walked, and kept the retriever in the bedroom so Shadow didn't run the risk of being flopped on by said dog. Maddie was also drinking. It was now 2:30 in the morning. The adults were exhausted, but they weren't sure if they could sleep. Maddie can't remember ever being this tired or forgetful. She doesn't even want to look at the time or what day it was. Wade poured out a hot chocolate instead. Not at all ready for the caffeine in coffee right now. No one said a word, they just drank away at the kitchen island. But Tom broke the silence.
Robotnik.
Wade paused, looking towards his best friend with wonder. Why bring up that name? Even Maddie was questioning where he was going with this.
Professor Gerald Robotnik.
He repeated, and Maddie stared incredulously at the sheriff. Wade was absolutely lost.
Tom, you aren't making sense.
He stated, maybe the night has broken his friend more than he thought.
Shadow told me.
He muttered, staring absent-mindedly into his mug.
Maria, his sister, was a Robotnik. Shadow himself is technically a Robotnik.
Maddie gasped and leaned forward to him.
No way.
Shadow's a Robotnik.
Wade blinked confusedly.
Hold on, was he adopted by humans, like the boys?
He winced. Small world. Does that mean he's related to the one who tried to take over the world? Were Robotniks just plain old evil? Was Shadow even aware? But Tom grimaced.
He was made.
The kitchen went completely silent, mostly out of confusion.
Gerald made him.
He muttered, sipping his coffee.
Or so he's been told.
What do you mean made like an android from Dragon Ball Z?
Why Dragon Ball Z as your first thought?
I mean, it's a classic.
You aren't wrong.
So, is it an android situation? Because I tell you, if I see a second Shadow, I'm basically done.
Wade honestly thinks Tom's messing with him. Tom winced.
Not exactly. We may be looking at the first and only successful attempt at artificial life on Earth. Congratulations! It's a boy. We are now the proud parents of that knowledge.
He added sarcastically. Maddie was floored and so was Wade.
But that is impossible. It shouldn't be.
I don't know about that, Maddie. He's out cold in the living room.
Tom gestured to the back of him with his thumb.
Non-possibilities went out the door when we adopted Sonic.
And you believe what he's saying?
She blinked. It's not that she thinks Shadow is lying. It's more so the Gerald man could have been.
Tom, he looks like them. How could this Gerald know to make a hedgehog sapien?
Tom sighed and rubbed his face.
Not like I can go knocking on doors to find Gerald. It sounds like GUN already took care of that issue. But think about it, his healing. You said it yourself, his x-rays didn't make sense. The sedation needing to be specifically made.
Maddie pursed her lip and thought about it. Is that why GUN kept him? Not only as proof that aliens exist, but he's made to be like one? How did Gerald find out about Mobians? The Robotniks certainly knew how to get attention, didn't they? They still don't know how long they've kept Shadow, and he can't even tell them that part either, because he didn't have a way to track time in his imprisonment. Oh goody, more questions are answered and more piled on.
So, how do we feel about this?
Wade hesitated to ask, earning a glare of the sheriff.
I'm just asking.
Doesn't change how I feel. I can't let it.
You certainly look like it's affecting you, though.
Oh yeah! How about you find out you've been with a man-made hedgehog, who was kept as a lab animal all his life, loses his family. GUN continues the lab crap and has trauma galore and needs years of therapy. Likely has PTSD. Then you also realize he's got super healing to a degree. Special abilities that we don't fully know or understand yet. Survived having a tree through him and all that. I mean, what have scientists been up to? I'm trying to find the bright side here.
Maddie reached out and took her husband's hand.
We can't turn our backs on him, not now. People have turned against him all his life, especially Gerald when GUN got involved. He needs us, Maddie.
I agree with you.
She tried to comfort him.
It's a lot to take in, sure, but I'm already too attached to let it affect me. I'll freak out with you when the boys aren't around.
Tom groaned and buried his head onto the table.
How are they going to take this? They hate Robotnik. I don't want them to hate Shadow over something he had no control over becoming.
Wade chewed his lip.
You aren't giving them enough credit. Sure, they'll be shell-shocked and upset. But you really think they'd demand Shadow to leave, after everything that happened tonight? I don't think so.
So many questions answered, and I still have more.
Tom muffled against the counter.
We need information, and who has that? Government-funded maniacs. The joy.
You know how to attract them is all Tom.
Thanks.
The universe loves you.
Double thanks.
4 traumatic boys.
Triple thanks. Want to go for a 4th?
All right, both of you, enough. We have a lot to digest. Shadow's home is here. That's not changing. We can explain to the boys when emotions aren't high.
You are handling this better than I thought, Maddie.
Oh, I'm freaking out internally. Believe me. Just you wait. I'll end up screaming randomly at some point when I'm more awake, so that's tomorrow.
But why was he even made?
Wade leaned on his elbow tiredly.
Just to see if they could make life.
No. He was made to cure Maria. He's essentially an organ baby, just man-made instead of being born.
Wade's mouth dropped open and he looked very much horrified.
You mean to tell me he was only given life so he could give to someone else?
It was quite heartbreaking when you put it that way.
No wonder he doesn't have an idea what he wants. He's always gave.
Wade sighed and banged his head against the counter tiredly.
You've got your work cut out for both of you, pal. I'm tired just by listening.
Gee, thanks.
We should get to bed.
Who needs sleep? I don't. I rather not. In fact, I think we should all stay up.
We can have a proper freak out and discussion when we aren't emotional and sleep deprived.
Or you could have a freak out in your dreams. I certainly will be. Can't be normal, can you?
Oh, what is normal anyway? We stopped being that way when we discovered Sonic. So bedtime now.
She eventually ended up dragging him to the living room with Wade in tow, all of them being mindful of the sleeping bundle around them. Lights were out. Wade took to the couch and had his arm over his eyes, trying to rest his mind from the information he was given, whereas Tom lay on the other side of Shadow, with Maddie squeezing herself against her husband. Shadow was now in between the family members and of course Luna the dragon. Tom watched his chest rise and fall slowly with sleepy eyes, thankful his heart or his special abilities kept him alive long enough to get help. He reached over and held his hand, and exhaustion claimed the humans. They all drifted off. The Master Emerald stayed within its box, listening to the hearts of those around it, and dimmed in brightness.